Imposter syndrome. This is definitely something I've struggled with. And in this video, I just want to go over an overview of my entire software engineering journey. So, imposter syndrome, spoiler alert, is a huge part of it. And I'm going to go over so much more. So, stay tuned. All right, just a very quick intro for those who may not know me. I transitioned into like software engineering about 4-ish years ago, and I went and pursued a computer science degree. And about 2 years after my computer science degree, I got hired at a Silicon Valley tech company for a six-figure role. And in this video, I'm gonna go over literally everything from the start of my journey to the end of my journey of how it happened and how I got into the role where I am today. Right. Without further ado, let's dive right into it. If you do like the content, please do consider supporting the channel, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Let's get into it. By the way, I have some notes in front of me. If I'm looking down at any point, I'm just looking at my notes. So here's how this video is going to be divided out, right? First, I'm just going to talk about my start a little bit, and I'll timestamp this as well. So if you're not interested in that, just skip right to the journey part. The journey part will be everything about my journey from start to finish, and then we'll conclude. So just to start, I come from a criminology background, right? I initially pursued a criminology degree and I considered becoming like a police officer or a border officer or something like that. So and also for most of my life, I've been terrible at schooling. In high school, I failed a bunch of high school courses, didn't graduate high school on time. In college, I failed a college course, didn't really have the best college grades either. So when I made the decision to transition into software engineering and pursue a computer science degree, it was an intimidating decision to say the least. Computer science and software engineering seemed like this field that was for like super smart people, people who are good at school and such things. And I didn't really feel like I was that person at that time. But nonetheless, I was determined to become a software engineer. So I pursued a computer science degree. This was, I want to say, about 4 years ago. So now let's talk about my journey from, when I took my first, like right when I started my computer science degree to getting hired at the Silicon Valley tech company, right? So I started my first course, and let me tell you, it was one of the most difficult courses I've ever taken in my life, period. Like I said previously, I wasn't really that good at school in general. And it was like coding when you start off, it does get easier and easier as you ramp up. But when you start off, it's very, very difficult, or at least it was for me. So I started my first course and I just wanted to slam my head against the desk. Like I was not understanding anything. Things weren't really working out my way. And the constant thought throughout this whole journey of my degree was, am I really smart enough to do this? Clearly I'm struggling greatly just with the first course I've taken. Am I smart enough to do this? Now, afterwards, after putting in a lot of hard work, I was able to get a pretty good grade in that course. But despite that, let me tell you, throughout my degree, the whole time, that thought was always in the back of my head. Am I smart enough to do this? Am I smart enough to do this? But I pushed through and worked hard nonetheless. And at this time, I was also grinding a bunch of lead code. If you're not familiar with lead code, basically it's a bunch of algorithm type problems that people tend to ask in coding interviews. So I was grinding this on the side in the hopes of landing an internship. So grinding lead code on the side and also doing my computer science degree, the actual courses. So while I was grinding lead code, I was applying to internships and I was applying a lot. But the university that I was at, it doesn't have like a great reputation of being like some top computer science university. So for the most part, my applications were just getting rejected. Every once in a while, though, I'd get a coding assessment, and usually I'd fail them. So again, it wasn't looking too good up until this point. But eventually, there was this one company I really wanted to get into, and they sent me a coding assessment before when I had applied, and I failed that one. So of course, they didn't consider me further. But I applied at a later date after their cool off period, and this time they sent me the coding assessment, and I got lucky because I think there were multiple coding questions in it, but at least one of the coding questions I had already seen before on LeetCode. So I knew the solution, of course. So I got lucky in that sense, aced that question, and the rest I did good enough in that they followed up for a second interview. I did well on the second, that was more like a behavioral interview, and then I got that internship. Now, at this internship, I worked my tail off. The pay wasn't great. It was like maybe 15, 16 an hour. I don't remember exactly. Just a little bit above minimum wage. But I was just so grateful for the opportunity, right? So I took that opportunity, ran with it, and worked my tail off for the 4 months that I was at this internship. So I do my hard work for 4 months, and I killed it during the internship, right? Like my supervisor was super impressed, my senior manager was super impressed, so I had glowing recommendations as I came out of that internship. Now, I was in the process of being converted to actually a full time employee at this company that I did the internship at, right? But while I was in this process, because it was a fairly long process, I got called by this Silicon Valley tech company for an interview, which was kind of surprising to me because, again, like I said, most of my applications tended to just get rejected. So the fact that this company would be calling me was kind of surprising. But nonetheless, of course, I took the opportunity and decided to interview with them. Now with this process, there was a technical interview first, and after the technical interview, there was an on-site where we did 4 back-to-back interviews, right? And I bombed the first technical screen completely. Like I thought coming out of that technical screen when I did it, I was like, okay, no way I passed that, right? But somehow I moved on, and they moving forward to a virtual onsite. So I just want to take a pause here for a second, right? And it really emphasized, of course, there you see that throughout my journey there have been these strokes of luck that have come my way, right? So there's something to be said about just showing up, right? I didn't feel smart enough, but I kept working hard and I kept, doing my thing. And these strokes of luck came along the way that helped me out. So I hope that serves at least a little bit of motivation to someone if you're in a situation where you don't feel like, you're smart enough, or things in your journey aren't really panning out the way you want them to. Strokes of luck do come in. So keep grinding and stay with the course of the journey. So anyway, again, bombed the first technical screen. They somehow still moved me on. Then I went to the on-site, and I had 4 back-to-back interviews. I did well on those interviews, and in about, I think a few hours, I had a job offer on the table, and I took that job offer. Now, at this company, right? Again, so many times, I haven't felt smart enough, haven't felt good enough at my job. I felt like, oh, maybe they made a mistake hiring me. Like any imposter syndrome thoughts that you can think of, they ran through my mind, right? But I would say at this point, I've been here for almost 2 years, and I would say at this point I don't really feel like that anymore. Of course, I still have my bad days, just like everyone else, but for the most part, I don't feel like that anymore, and here's why. If you so when you're in this kind of place of insecurity, right? Imposter syndrome, insecurity. That's what I'm referring to. It's hard to see things objectively, right? It's kind of like anxiety. So I have a little bit of anxiety myself, and if you have anxiety, you can relate as well. It's like the initial kind of perception that comes into your mind isn't totally accurate. Anxiety kind of I don't know what the word is, but it doesn't let you see things objectively, right? So ever since I've kind of taken an objective look at my environment, at the general like software engineering environment, even at like bigger companies or smaller companies, whatever it may be, I realized that most people are kind of in the same shoe that I'm in, right? If you were to talk to most software engineers, I would say quite a few of them at least would tell you that they have experienced imposter syndrome. And even when I say like within my company or within some other company, I ask someone like a technical question, it's clear that for a fair amount of those questions, they're just as confused as I am, right? So we're not given these high salaries or hired as software engineers and expected to know everything. Technology moves at an insanely fast pace, at an unbelievably fast pace, and frankly, at a pace so fast that no one can keep up with it, right? So new technologies will come up, new technologies will be adopted in your company, and you'll have no idea what any of them are, right? And you just kind of have to work through that, problem solve, and figure it out. So there's no point, or at least this is the conclusion that I've kind of come to. There's no point in kind of feeling bad about it or feeling less or inferior just because you don't know these things or you don't know something. Just trust your problem solving skills, go into it, and do your thing, and realize that most people are basically in the same position you're in. So you're not out of place, and hopefully you don't feel like you're out of place. Imposter syndrome makes you feel like that, but I took an objective look at the situation, and again I realized most people are in the same position I'm in, so I'm not out of place. Therefore, there's no reason for me to be feeling out of place, and my imposter syndrome has gone down significantly since then. So yeah, that is my journey up until this point. I tried to make it short, quick, kind of just touch on the main points. If I was to summarize this, in one sentence, basically, I worked really hard despite kind of the doubts and all those things that came into my mind. Through action, through hard work, and through strokes of luck, those doubts started to dissipate, and now I'm at a point where I feel fairly comfortable in my position. And that's been my journey. Hope it can motivate you, or hopefully it was at least fun just to hear about it. Any questions, comments, I'll leave my Instagram, TikTok somewhere so you can DM me on Instagram. Feel free to comment on this video. I'll definitely respond. Please do like as well and subscribe to the channel if you like the content. That's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.